Let's explore weird anger myths and some Buddhist beliefs. Whoops, wrong button. Well, life's an exciting adventure, isn't it, folks? Here we go. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit pertaining to weird anger myths of addiction, anger, and hell. The individual wrote, I have an issue with smoking, an attachment, which I'm trying to break, but I'm challenged every day with it. As I live in a care home, and they only allow me 1 cigarette an hour. So, first off, I am sorry you live in a care home. And I'm sorry that of all the care homes you live in one of the ones that are run by domineering, rigid, and controlling people. This is sadly not unheard of. There are some people who work in care homes because they are loving. There are others who work in care homes because they hope it'll be an easy buck. There are others who work in care homes because they just get off on dominating those under their care. And their care quickly becomes their rule. I've seen this far too many times. And I'm sorry you're enduring that. Number 2, smoking is not an issue. It is an illicit substance that is easy to become addicted to, especially for people who have health issues. Anybody with health issues are more likely, is my understanding, more likely to have problems with their dopamine system. If someone has problems with their dopamine system, willpower is not enough. Yes, mindfulness meditation are wonderful tools. They're wonderful adjuncts. But if they are our main go-to method, we're going to meet with great frustration. The Buddha, according to myth, was born into privilege and rank, wealth, power, and society, raised with every pleasure you can imagine. He did not experience a deficiency of that and therefore did not invent a system to fix that. Au contraire, he found the folly of that and sought to find the meaning of life independent of the creature comforts. Therefore, acquisition of creature comforts is not the main focus of Buddhism. The fleeing the tyranny of peril, pain, scorn, and shame is not the main thrust of Buddhism. Acquiring safety, affluence, pleasure, love, and fame are not the main thrust of Buddhism, nor am I accusing you of assuming that it is. The main thrust of Buddhism is to get really, really good at coping with things. But just because we cope with cancer doesn't mean we overcome cancer. Just because we cope with an addiction doesn't mean we overcome the addiction. Just because we repress an addiction doesn't mean it still isn't there pulling the strings behind the scenes. Me and my partner are watching a fabulous movie, a period piece, something about horrible little letters. And spoiler alert, the villain is also the protagonist. And she was thrust into mental health due to abuse and repression. So we repress our impulses, our addictions, our habits out of peril. Repression is not therapeutic. In the ancient Hebrew scriptures, it is written, "Wisdom is found with many advisors." Similarly, with our healthcare issues, we need more than just one. There is no panacea. There is no one cure that fits everything. We need many helpers and many therapies, especially if our health is compromised. I shall continue. Freud would say something about this. Good old Freud. He's my favorite cocaine addict. But I don't take him seriously these days. Good. Nor should anyone. I'm aware of Tanya and Chandra, and I have to watch these states. I have a desire to get out of the lower realms while I am in them. Now, this could be the writer of this could be speaking metaphorically, and that's perfectly understandable that when we are experiencing anger, that when we are experiencing desire, that when we are experiencing befuddlement, to reach for a metaphor of striking while the iron is hot, that is the ideal time to practice mindfulness and meditation of those three states. That's fabulous. But on the other hand, while it is praiseworthy to choose to have patience with those who are being domineering with you, I would remind you that according to the Christian scriptures, love does not lord it over others. Love is not domineering. According to the Christian scriptures, and that was, of course, 1 Corinthians 13. According to the Christian scriptures, first epistle of John, God is love. And according to the Gospels, the kingdom of God is within you. So, if love does not rule the throne of your heart, then you are not. Then one is not in the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, no matter how your captors or caregivers might insist they are good Christians, by behaving in a domineering manner, they are forsaking Christ. They are poor ambassadors of Christ. Do what you can. If you have a social worker, please reach out to them. This environment of being dominated is not conducive to your healing or health or happiness or well-being. You are not a prisoner, and they are not permitted to be your wardens, no less your captors, no less your tormentors. But I know this is the fruit of negative past karma, of which I wasn't really aware as I was Christian and around irresponsible Christian people who were certainly, as was I, subject to the three poisons. And now I have to politely disagree with you. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, but not in the fun, tingly way. Which would explain why the majority of so-called contemplatives and the majority of so-called meditation teachers enthusiastically embrace being rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel as if it was Jim Dandy. Whereas, when we look at the examples and teachings of Lao Tzu or the Buddha or the Christ, they favored the opposite approach, being flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. But that first group, those rigid, controlling people, they sure like frightening people with hell. And you know what? People like that also are a big fan of free will. They're also a big fan of victim blaming, and they almost they behave as if they get a vicarious thrill, a salacious delight from victim blaming. But did you know that the Buddha only really talked about causality in terms of meditation? That our body affects our experience of pleasure and pain. That our experience of pleasure and pain affects our appraisal. That our appraisal can affect our survival impulses. And that our survival impulses can have an effect on our awareness. There was no morality in there. There was no causality, and there was no retribution in there. There was no Mata's gonna get you if you don't watch out. None of that. If you find a Buddhist teacher who threatens you with tales of inauspicious rebirth, thank them for their time and be on your merry way, for they do not deserve the privilege of teaching you. No. Karma, as it is taught by the rigid and the controlling, is a dangerous lie. For there is no free will. Ask a physicist. Ask a neuroscientist. They will agree. There is no free will. Free will is the hobgoblin of lazy minds and lazy hearts. People who would rather condemn than empathize. Beware of those people. Please, please beware of those people. If you have a social worker, reach out to them. Let's discuss the 3 mental poisons. The first noble truth is quite simple. We are subject to stressors. Some stressors are circumstantial, some are physical, some are interpersonal, some are mental. We evolve the capacity to perceive stressors not because of some cruelty of real or imagined celestial entities, not because of a character flaw, not because of a bad belief. We evolve the capacity to perceive stressors as a survival mechanism. All the mysteries of biology make sense only within the realm through the lens of evolution and natural selection. But is the liberation that the Buddha offers us? Is it liberation from the presence of our survival mechanisms, or liberation from their tyranny? There is a minority of meditation teachers who feel that being flexible, loving, and laid back is a good thing, who teach that liberation is not a lobotomy where we get rid of our limbic system, for we need it to survive. It is simply allowing us to experience the fulfillment of life that comes from our survival mechanisms ceasing to be our tyrants and instead being merely our tools. It's good to recognize the 3 mental poisons and simply label them as this as you breathe in, and then relax as you breathe out, for it stokes the fires of our meditation. But to remind us of the teachings of Tengtong Gyalpo, who gave us the world's most popular Chenrezig sadhana, we must let go of the 3 circles of emptiness: object, subject, and act. So, although we can perceive the 3 poisons, we can release them. Although we can perceive our experience of mind and body and action, we can release them. Although we can observe the objects of our confusion or aggression or greed, we can release them. Bring the 3 circles of the 3 poisons into the path of mindfulness and meditation. And that is the entirety of the Buddhist path. Do that. And love and wisdom and effortless effort take care of themselves. We continue. I've just heard someone in the courtyard adjacent to the southwest window in my room, and I have a desire to go downstairs. I'm sure that I shall sit passively, hoping for a cigarette, but I do not want to end up in any hell realm. Can you guide me, please? Yes. The only hell realms are metaphoric. When we are being tormented by others, that can feel like hell. When I mentioned the phrase effortless effort, which I refer to as the 6th fold of the Buddha's 8-fold path. The more effectively we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more we will experience love, spontaneous and uncontrived. When our choices, utterances, and deeds flow effortlessly from love's centered spontaneity, then we will find ourselves in the moment choosing or saying or doing things that can help us move forward in life to our next adventure, whether that change be glacial or lightning in speed, whether that change be subtle or jarring. We must be honest with our minds, with our perceptions, our emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We must be honest with our circumstances, bodies, relationships, and minds. If you are being treated like a child or a prisoner or a dog, begging and simpering for a treat, this is not sustainable. And just as Hamlet said to Ophelia, "Quick, get thee to a nunnery," I would say to you, first opportunity you have, contact your social worker. Do not be artful in your language. Be precise. Speak literally of the behavior of the people who are supposed to be taking care of you, how they are domineering and cruel, behaving in a way that is putting your well-being in peril. Do not let the social worker brush you off. Advocate for yourself. That can be scary. For often we go from one extreme to the other, from being a doormat to being the Incredible Hulk. Clearly, those are understandable fears. As you sit in mindfulness and meditation, allow yourself to be aware of those extremes, those potentialities, fears, that which you dread. Allow yourself to be vulnerable to the full spectrum of human emotions. Notice and release, and let the inner genius of your centered spontaneity guide you. I do look forward to practicing with you, together as a team, after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Just as a sprinter places their feet, their shoes, in runner's blocks or starter's blocks before the pistol is fired, let us set intention by chanting love and letting go's wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. One moment, if you please. I must do a quick edit because that is how I roll. I'm going to, let's see, 1, 2, 3. And let's hit cut. 1, 2, 3. And paste. Please chant with me. Oh, it doesn't matter. Okay, please chant with me. May all circumstances of all beings appearing yet impermanent be as safe and abundant as a real or imagined Buddha's land. May all minds of all beings clear yet impermanent be as joyfully enlightened as a Buddha's mind. May all relationships of all beings resounding yet impermanent be as peacefully loving as a Buddha's speech. May all bodies of all beings sensual yet impermanent be as beautifully healthy as a real or imagined Buddha's form. As we breathe in and silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this, we can kick back and watch the antics of mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. As we silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we can relax into mind's non-graspable nature. We notice our perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. The only label we need use what's the word? It's a certain type of pronoun. Is the demonstrative pronoun this? That is the only label we need play with. Let us seal this evening's practice by chanting love and letting go's wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. May all circumstances of all beings appearing yet impermanent be as safe and abundant as a real or imagined Buddha's land. May all minds of all beings clear yet impermanent be as joyfully enlightened as a Buddha's mind. May all relationships of all beings resounding yet impermanent be as peacefully loving as a Buddha's speech. May all bodies of all beings sensual yet impermanent be as beautifully healthy as a real or imagined Buddha's form. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.